Okay guys, I'm about to go over the Math Talks problem for Thursday, March 19th. The problem was, would you rather have 2/4 of a candy bar or 3/8 of a candy bar? Prove your answer with the picture. So looking at this, I can tell I'm comparing two fractions. I'm comparing 2/4 of a candy bar and 3/8 of a candy bar. If I go ahead and I write down these fractions, 2/4 and then 3/8, I can tell that my denominators are different. The denominators being the bottom number, which tells me how many equal parts are in that one whole. So because my denominators are different, this is going to be harder for me to compare. I'm going to have to draw two fraction bars to compare it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, and the best way to draw two fraction bars is just by starting with one large rectangle. And parents who have been working with fractions, you'll see why I prefer to do fraction bars instead of circles in a second. So you start with one large rectangle, and then you're going to go ahead and just cut it horizontally in half, and you're cutting it horizontally. So now you have two fraction bars, and they're going to be the same. So I'm going to label each fraction bar. So this right here basically represents our candy bar, and this represents the other candy bar, and they're the same size. So I have 2/4 of a candy bar, and the reason it's easier to do it this way is because it's easier to have these two fraction bars being more similar and equal size than drawing two circles and having them be the same size. I just think it's easier to do a fraction bar than drawing two circles to be exactly the same size. That's why it gets hard to do comparisons when you do circles instead of rectangles. So that's why we do rectangles. So I wrote 2/4 to represent the one candy bar, and then I'm going to write 3/8 under it to represent the second candy bar. When you're doing a fraction bar, the first thing you always do is you look at the denominator, which is your bottom number. The denominator is how many equal parts are in one whole. It's important to remember one whole, because we might have a fraction greater than 1, which we've learned about. But this, my numerator is less than my denominator, so it's just one whole. I'm going to have 4 equal parts. This candy bar is broken into 8 equal parts. They're the same exact candy bar. You can pretend they're both Hershey bars, but this one's broken into 4 equal parts, that one's broken into 8. 4ths and 8ths are in the same fraction family as halves, which means we can start by just dividing these in half. Again, this makes it so they're equal. I'm going to have the halves, so I'm going to take my pencil or marker for me, look to see if it's about halfway, and draw straight down. Now you can see both of my candy bars are broken into 4ths. That's great for this one because I need 4ths. This one I need 8ths. So I'm going to have each of my 4ths. I'm only doing that on the bottom because this one needs to be 8ths. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to make sure I did it correctly. The next step we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to label our unit fractions. The unit fraction representing one equal part of a whole. So, because I'm talking about one part, my numerator is 1. So each of these has a numerator of 1. My denominator is how many equal pieces are in that whole. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my unit fraction for this first candy bar is 1/4. So each one says 1/4. Bottom, I count my equal pieces. I know there's 8. My denominator is 8. So my unit fraction is also going to have a denominator of 8. And then when we label our unit fractions, we always talk about one equal part. So my numerator is going to be 1. Now I've labeled my unit fractions for both candy bars. I have 1/4 and 1/8. So now I look at my numerator and I see how many pieces did I actually eat, or would I eat. So for 2/4, my numerator is 2. I shade in 2 parts. These 2 shaded parts represent how much I could eat. My numerator here is 3. So how many equal parts are you going to shade in to show that you're eating? 3. So I'm going to shade in 3 of these equal parts. And now what we do is we just compare. And this is again why I like the rectangles instead of the circles, because all I can do is I can just look, and I can look straight down, and I can see that this part is easily bigger than down here. So if I want to eat more candy bar, I'm going to want to eat 2/4 of a candy bar rather than 3/8. And I can write a comparison statement by saying that 2/4 is greater than 3/8. That greater than symbol eating the bigger number, the alligator. If you need to draw those little teeth mark to help you remember, go for it, okay? So 2/4 is greater than 3/8, so I would rather have 2/4 of candy bar than 3/8 of a candy bar. Even though the denominator is bigger, does not mean you're getting more to eat. Remember, the larger the denominator, the smaller your pieces are actually becoming.